So there is one written question here. It is, there is one, I think he was British writer called Lobsang Rampa. He claimed that he was a Tibetan master, and he wrote a lot of books, like about miracles, some crazy experiences and stuff. So the person is asking, is it true that this person, Lobsang Rampa, if you know who is he, was he really Tibetan or a Lama, or his books correspond to reality or not?
I bought one book long time ago, and it is sitting on my table in India for past 15 years, I think. I have never managed to read it. Okay. We will continue with the path, the Buddhist path. I'm talking basically the same thing. But because this is kind of very vast. Okay, you may have heard wisdom and compassion, wisdom and method, things like this. And they are very important. They are like the ingredient of the Buddhist path. But before I go to this, I want to give you an analogy. When you sharpen a knife, you need a wet stone, and then you rub the metal on the wet stone. Then what happens? Two kinds of exhaustion happens. Stone exhausts, and metal also exhausts. And it's called, when the metal is successfully exhausts, it's called sharp knife. That's why, and that's how the Buddhist path are, very similar. There is a problem such as negative emotions. And then there is an antidote to this, such as love and compassion meditation. And then they rub. But what do you call it? At the end, it's not as if we are going to, that at the end, it's not as if all the problems are gone, but the solution remains, because that's not right. If the solution remains, it means problem is still there. When the problem is gone and when the solution is also gone, then that means you are free. I'm trying to introduce you Tantra a little bit. This is how the Tantric wisdom comes in. Yes, Tantric wisdom is great. Because in Tantra, so just imagine the Buddhist path in general. A clear distinctions between the solution and the problem is what we call causal path. When the solution and the problem are becoming very, 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 very close, closer it gets, the higher the path is. And finally, in the Tantra, solution is the problem and problem is the solution. This is why the great master such as Naropa said, one that binds the idiot will release the wise ones. So, for people like you and me, desire will bind us. It will intoxicate us, it will engross us, it will make us numb. But if you can create a wisdom, if you have a wisdom then this very desire that we have can also liberate us. This is where the Tantric wisdom excels. See, if you have 1 kilo of water, then you have 1 kilo of moisture. Likewise, for the Tantra, a kilo of desire is a kilo of wisdom. But this is the magic of the phenomena. You know, it's like the truth has to be found within the fake. Light and darkness. The light has to be found within the darkness. But of course, one requires the wisdom. And if you don't have the wisdom, of course, then you are playing with the fire. So now if you look at the Buddhist sort of Buddhist icon or Buddhist, I don't know, just like figures, for instance.
Figures like people.
Yeah. We venerate people like Kashyapa or Shariputra. Look, I think in Christianity there's like what, St. Francis of Assisi, right? Very serene, humble, begging bowl, bare feet, all this. But equally, if not more, we venerate people like Avalokiteshvara or Manjushri, who has earrings, golden bracelets, royal costumes, shoes, very, very elaborated. Equally, we also venerate people like Naropa or Telopa, who, if today he walks in here, we will not let them in. They have not taken bath, they have not polished their nails, they are not necessarily humble, they are usually found in the bar, they eat live fish, are they really Buddhist? Stuff like this. But we also equally venerate them. Where is this spirit come from? This spirit comes from the Buddhist path of wisdom and compassion, or the wisdom and method in union. Wisdom is very, very important in Buddhism. Morality is much less important than the wisdom. In fact, as Shantideva said, morality without the wisdom is pain in the neck. It will cause constipation. Morality without the wisdom will make you arrogant. Morality without the wisdom will make you lose compassion, no compassion. Morality without the wisdom creates puritanical mind. So, wisdom and the method together is what makes the Buddhist path. Okay, so here we then, because of that, all the practice that is seemingly very theistic, like offering incense, offering lamp, prostration to the Buddha, all this comes because it fits within the system of wisdom and method and wisdom. So, for instance, we even offer bath to the Buddha. Doesn't mean at all the Buddha requires occasional bath. We make offerings of food to the Buddha. Doesn't mean at all Buddha gets hungry. In fact, as I said yesterday, in the Vajrachatika Sutra, Buddha said, those who see me as a form, they have a wrong view. So then why do we do this? Why do we make offerings with the flowers and the incense and all of that? Because fundamentally, because we are still dreaming, the nightmare. We have a nightmare, we are afraid of the snake, and any means to wake us up from this nightmare is welcome. So how does it work? For instance, like prostration. Why do we do prostration? We make prostrations because as we prostrate, nowadays the people just do prostrations as a culture. This is what I was saying. The culture always hijacks Buddhism. But prostration, the essence of the prostration is basically surrendering. Even physically, your most precious, part of your body, such as your forehead, such as your hand, you put it on the ground at the presence of the Buddha or somebody. So that's prostration. You bow down. You bow down. But actually, so that bowing down, the real bowing down of your ego has now become a cultural practice of doing the prostrations with the hands gesture like that, which came from India basically. In the Tantra, there's a method. You can hire somebody called Guru, and then ask him to publicly abuse your ego 100,000 times. Probably more. And really bowing down to that.
Yes.
That's the real prostration, not this. But in today's world, Tantric practice of Guru and Chela, student, is criminal. It's difficult. I mean, the Tantric practice of Guru devotion and all of that, from today's world's point of view,
it is a crime.
It's like a crime. It's impossible. So this outer prostration of bowing down and touching your forehead on the floor probably is at least better than nothing. I'm just trying to tell you why some of these rituals exist. Even though, in the past few hours we have been talking Buddhism in a very, very sort of scientific and philosophical way. Where does the ritual fits in? And then there's a ritual of asking the teachers and the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas to teach, requesting them to turn the wheel of the Dharma is called. That's supposedly very, very important because it is yet another practice of humility, accepting that you don't know, please teach. And then there is also a ritual of practicing rejoice. And as you can see, we have a habit of envy and jealousy. To work with this habit of envy and jealousy, we then rejoice other people's good time, good deeds, so on and so forth. All the ritual fits in very well with the philosophy or the view of Shunyata. Out of all this, I will single out meditation, since that is probably the most handy and economical thing to do. And even the meditation, I'm telling you, meditation without the wisdom. If you want that kind of meditation, you go to 5-star resorts. Spas, you have to go to the spas.
Spa center.
Where you can relax and get charged with, you let all your negative emotions have a rest and get charged with more ignorance so that on Monday you can be more ruthless.
Sure.
But if you are following a Buddhist meditation, it has to have both. It has to have the wisdom aspect. This is why shamatha, which is purely training of making the mind workable, and then the vipassana, which is the wisdom, which is really designed to see the insight of everything. That's why we meditate. And you should meditate, even if it is 3 minutes a day. And you have 3 minutes. And if you do 3 minutes a day, every day, it will become a habit. And then you will not find it difficult. In fact, I would strongly suggest you not to do an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours of meditation in one go, unless you have a good instructor. I would suggest you to do short meditation, but consistently. And consistently, if you meditate, at the least you will begin to realize you will begin to realize and notice the function of your mind, which is already very important. Even now you can try, we should try. So this requires some discipline. Everything has a discipline. Even to make a coffee you need a discipline. Okay, here you are allowed to swallow saliva if it is necessary. And I guess you are allowed to breathe. And if it is necessary, you can blink your eyes. Other than that, no movement, no scratching, no yawning, no coughing, nothing. Nothing at all. If your phone rings suddenly, don't switch it off. If a mosquito is slowly landing on your nose, too bad. So that's what we are going to do. So cough and yawn now. Okay. And we will do it very short. We only do 3 minutes. In 3 minutes, what we will do is you just sit straight. No need any visualization. No mantras to chant. Nothing exotic to think of. It's called just sit. And this word just is very profound. In 20 years, the meaning of the word just. Okay, sit very straight. And we will begin. Okay. So as you can see, In these 3 minutes, you begin to notice things. Noticing is like the beginning part of awareness. We do not contemplate enough. We don't contemplate enough. Contemplation is such a powerful thing to do. And because we do not contemplate, we don't also notice. There is so much shortage of noticing things. So many things happen without our notice. And it gets worse because when we don't notice, then that means we are distracted to something. The distraction always entangles you. Then after a while, it becomes big, uncontrollable emotion. What you just did already has a little bit of wisdom and method. What is the method here? Not coughing, not scratching, sitting straight. These are the method. Method is a trick usually. It is a trick to do. It's a method. It's a trick. You just have to get used to this method. After a while, you could be dancing in a rave party and you could be completely noticing things. And this also has a bit of a wisdom in it. Very, very small amount, of course. There is a wisdom because you are not doing anything. I didn't ask you to do anything except just sitting. I didn't ask you to sort of count. I didn't ask you to visualize. This has a wisdom because by doing that, by completely not engaging, chances of becoming ignorant is less. Anyway, this is just to let you know that the Buddhist philosophy, such as what we have discussed, is not just something to read, but something you can apply. And lastly, the fourth seal, enlightenment is beyond our conception. Because enlightenment is beyond our concept of time, space, and all kinds of distinctions. When we talk about nirvana, we are not talking about some very nice place to go, even though more likely many of us may seem to be aiming for that. You may think, so is enlightenment very boring? From our human, deluded, emotional point of view, yes. If you want to keep your emotion, delusion, all of that, you should not practice the Dharma. You should not try to get enlightenment. But if you think that this emotions, this dualistic mind, this judgmental mind is a problem, that you want to be free from it, yes, then enlightenment is possible, but at the same time, enlightenment is not something that one can, distinguish. This to tell you, this is to tell you that enlightenment is not an entity. Remember the person who was having nightmare? Enlightenment is end of the nightmare. Enlightenment is also the end of, so enlightenment is end of snake and no snake, both. Enlightenment in this case is coming back to the bed. Only this time, no nightmare. And when you see the fellow sleepers who are going through the nightmare, you have a compassion. That's about it. As you may notice, these subjects are kind of it's a kind of difficult subject. But nevertheless, I'm glad that we have discussed this time, because I think it's important that you know that Buddhism is not limited to like non-violence, vegetarianism, meditation. It's not just limited to that. It's also important that you realize that to be a practitioner, that you don't therefore you should realize that become a practitioner does not necessarily mean going to a cave and shave your hair, etc. Buddhists also talk about renunciation. The most important renunciation is a renunciation of your concept. And that happens when wisdom and method are both combined. As long as you have a concept, as long as you are bound by a concept, you are not free. Whether you are bound by a golden chain or an iron chain, you are chained. So always be prepared. To be Buddhist means that to be a good Buddhist means there will always be pulling the rug out of your feet again and again and again. It's also a bit like peeling the onion. One layer of skin you will peel off through meditation and through all kinds of practices, and you think, this is it. After 5 years later, you realize that's just another skin. Then you peel that off. You go on peeling off more and more skin and end up each time thinking that this is it, this is the final, this is the fruit. And when you peel off all the skin, when you reach to something called enlightenment, you will never remember that you have even been once a sentient being. You will never be able to tell anybody a story of, well, once upon a time when I was a sentient being, I did this and that. And this is called non-duality of samsara and the nirvana. And then you can do it. But this is the great thing about Buddhism. It's not bound by a certain culture or a certain habit. If you, Ukrainians, Russians, whoever, if you have anger, desire, jealousy, pride, which I'm sure you do, if you have those, then you have a hope. If you don't have these, then I'm talking to a pebble, stones. No one can enlighten a piece of wood or a pebble. So don't be too hard on yourself. Go easy with the vodka and live long and be happy and constantly tell yourself that does not exist and be content because that is the wealth, and always think that you only have 2 more days to live. And in nutshell, to be spiritual means to be useless. If you ever try to be useful, you will suffer. Let go the aim of being useful and have a purpose. When you become useless, then you become a true artist. Anyway, this will not go very well with your grandparents. Okay. Thank you.
Спасибо.